Hey CSEC, so it turns out our school mascot is the Guardian. Who knew? Well, I found that out about 2 months ago, a week after I actually graduated. Well, interesting school trivia aside, I want to talk about something a little more interesting, inspiring, yada yada yada. So, I was given today's topic of the assembly, grit. And I did what just about anybody would do. Googled it. So Google gave us two definitions. The first, small loose particles of sand or stone. Not very helpful. The second one, strength of character, courage, and resolve, which, as you probably guessed, is what I'm going to focus on. So, looking at the second definition, I decided to pursue something whose knowledge almost rivals Google, Wikipedia. So Wikipedia defines grit as kind of this coupling of motivation and passion towards this end long-term goal. And it highlights this long-term aspect of it. So it's not just grit today, laziness tomorrow. It's grit today, tomorrow, next week, next month, up until X goal is achieved. So for me, 4 years. Not so fun. Well, using these definitions, I wanted to use some super great analogy that everybody here would get. So I thought about running a race, or swimming laps, or even like hiking the incline. But if you couldn't tell by my Adonis-like physique, I don't know anything about this. So instead, I want to focus on something that I get, and hopefully you get, math. So I decided to use a little equation. Woo! Grit is equal to courage plus resolve times strength of character. I wanted to highlight the importance of this motivation, or the strength of character aspect, because it's not just the motivation. I mean, you can be all motivated to do something, but once you're kind of tested, that's when true grit shows. Your motivation, honestly, it'll snap. It does that. But it's this strength of character that builds the backbone for grit. So, thinking numbers, grit, my brain jumps to sandpaper. Because, you know, you might have 100 grit, 200 grit, 10,000 grit, which would probably feel pretty nice. So, sandpaper, as you know, is used to kind of shave or wear away at things and to kind of perfect them in whatever they need. So the environment, you hear people will say the environment shapes us, it changes us, but I mean really it does. It has its own great sandpaper power, whatever you want to call it, and it kind of hones away at us until we become what we end up being 30, 40, 50 years in the future. But I mean, this is true. Grit does, or the environment does this with grit. But what if we also can have this grit? What if we can have more power than just sitting there waiting to be sanded away? So if we have this grit, this sandpaper, what if we can actually do the wearing away? What if instead we can actually kind of erode these barriers that come up? What if we're the ones that instead of waiting to be changed, we can actually change the environment around us to suit what we need? I was in your shoes 4 years ago. Probably sitting where you're sitting, listening to an assembly about keep believing. Yeah, super motivational. Well, sitting there, I decided that I was going to get my bachelor's degree. No questions asked. It was going to be easy. I would be like any college student. I would have a degree plan. Follow the degree plan, meet with a counselor, everything would be easy, pass my classes, pay a lot of money. Yeah, would be fun. Well, turns out, they didn't want that. And so I come on campus and instead of yes, 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 do this, do that, do that, I was hit with a whole lot of no's. It was almost like every single corner I turned, I would hit this big wooden barrier. But ironically enough, sandpaper is great on wood. So I would just wear away at these barriers using grit and somehow it would work. Well, I mean, obviously that's not all. There was a whole lot of support from family and friends and prayer. But again, grit is really the core of what got me through it. So back to the equation. Courage, resolve, and strength of character. So it takes courage to walk up to a professor that flat out tells you you can't pass his class. It takes resolve to sit there, class after class, for 4 years to learn all the knowledge that you need to graduate. It takes strength of character to actually go to college at 14 when your beliefs are tested, when everything you think is true, or everything you want to think is true, or everything you are gets flipped up on its head. So, CSEC. Again, I just want to leave you with great courage, resolve, and strength of character. So instead of you sitting there waiting for the world to hit you, do what it does, hone you, shape you, sharpen you, whatever word you want to use, don't just sit there. Instead, go out and erode away at the world. Use your grit and shape the environment around you.